Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Rushcliffe series. This is the southernmost district in Nottinghamshire and it contains 59 civil parishes of England. And there's some corkers down here. Let's dive in and check one out. Welcome back to Rushcliffe again, everybody. Now, it's been a while since we encountered a parish like this one. This one doesn't have any sort of centre of population. In fact, what it does have is very little. The main things you'll find in this are an expanse of rural open countryside, a few earthworks, and 7 of these farms. This one here is Brookley Farm, but we are interested mainly in 2 of those 7 farms, and I have actually got a walking route around this one because I've made a little circle using some public rights of way. Welcome to Thorpe in the Glebe. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Thorpe in the Glebe, Earth Clot Settlement. Welcome to one of the most rural parishes you could ever hope to find. Situated between the Leicestershire village of Wymeswold and the Rushcliffe village of Wysall, which we covered last time out, is the parish that goes by the name of Thorpe in the Glebe. Although it has no village centre or any kind of structure, people do reside in these boundaries, so it's not one of the 8 in England with a population of 0. Thorpe in the Glebe has 8 farms dotted along a smallish slice of undulating farmland. There used to be a village here in medieval times, but legend has it that it was destroyed in either a battle or an atrocious hailstorm. You can take your pick. In the 14th century, it was sometimes known by a different name, Thorpe in the Clots, and that brings us to its etymology. There can be no denying that Thorpe is Scandinavian. It means a secondary or daughter settlement. Clots are, or were, hard lumps of earth or clay soil, which made crops hard to grow out here. Thorpe in the Glebe means exactly the same thing. In this case, glebe is derived from the Latin word gleba, meaning clot of earth. There's no church here, but I can take you to where one was sited, across the ancient lumps and bumps of the old village. It's an unusual episode this, so let's go. With a population of just 22 people recorded at the last census, Thorpe in the Glebe is easily one of the most sparsely populated parishes in England. It comprises 8 farms, not 7 as I mistakenly thought in the intro. They are, in no particular order, Woodside Farm, Thorpe Lodge Farm, Hillcrest Farm, Windy Ridge Farm, Oak Tree Farm, Brookley Farm, Church Site Farm, and Annabelle's Farm, which is what this track leads to. They all have their own stories to tell, and no doubt features to discuss. Brookley Farm, for example, has some alpacas. It's Annabelle's Farm, though, that has perhaps the most interesting landmark of the lot. If you visit this, you'll find a nice farmhouse and some pretty cool stables. But something else makes this one special. How many private houses do you know that have a brick tomb in their garden? Okay, so we've driven up to Annabelle's farm, and the general consensus was from the Wysall and Thorpe in the Glebe group on Facebook that I should knock on the door and ask the man who lives here, Peter Ford, whether or not I could film this tomb. He was in, and he gratefully accepted the idea. So here we are. Here is the tomb of Thomas Annabelle. Let's talk a little bit about this guy. This tomb, 20 metres north of the farmhouse, contains the remains of Thomas Annabelle, and the thick slate slab atop the structure is in memory of both him and his wife, Mary. Both died in 1852, Mary in May of that year and Thomas shortly after in the June. The tomb is Grade 2 listed. Thomas Annabelle was a Baptist, and it was he who built Annabelle's farm. Not a lot more is known about the man, but I reckon he must have been quite the dedicated farmer. It stands to reason, seeing as he chose to be buried on the very farm that he established. Okay, so now we're going to go off around on our walk around Thorpe in the Glebe. We've dealt with Annabelle's farm. The other farm we're interested in is Church Site Farm, and that is where the church was. It's also where a lot of Thorpe in the Glebe once was. It was where the village was situated. If you look on the maps of historic England, you'll see there's a scheduled ancient monument which covers quite a sizable chunk of the land that Thorpe in the Glebe covers. So we can walk between the two farms via a public right-of-way, and that's what we're about to do right now. So this main walk will only touch two of the other farms out here, but the route will pass over the remains of the ancient medieval village that Thorpe once was. After following the track out of Annabelle's farm, you come to a field, the first of two which have to be crossed in order to get to farm number 2. It's in the second field where you'll encounter the ancient earthworks. Thorpe in the Glebe is probably the most extensive of Nottinghamshire's deserted medieval villages. Historical evidence suggests that the area was populated as far back as Roman times. Finds of flint tools and Roman pottery back this theory up. By the time the Domesday Book was compiled, Thorpe in the Glebe was a waste. It appeared in the book as Thorpe Regis, literally King's Settlement. No population was recorded at that time, so it appears the area was deserted and then subsequently resettled. So these earthworks are probably not picked up very well on the camera, but they are there, trust me, and some of them are quite steep as well in places. So yeah, there you go. There's some, at least, of Thorpe in the Glebe's medieval village. Now here's the thing, as I've been walking across these two fields, I've been thinking to myself, you know, how do people know where to go? How do they know where these public rights of way run? Sometimes you can't tell where they go because you walk across a field and all you can see is just crops or a barren wasteland of nothing, and you can't see a way marker in the distance. Well, download Strava, because I'm going to show you a neat little thing, a feature of this app. Here you go. Here's my walking route, currently under construction, and you can see this blue line is where I've walked. Now if I zoom right in, you can see that Strava has the public rights of way, the route of the right of way, which means if you have this open, you can tell where to go. I mean, I've obviously gone off it slightly here. That was to go around one of the earthworks because it was quite a steep hill. But yeah, if you have Strava, you can follow the footpaths like this. You should never, in theory, get lost if you follow that. That's quite handy thing to have. It's all right when you're on a street and you can tell where to go on, you know, the pavement or on the road, but when you're on a field like this with no way markers in sight, that's the way to do it. Okay, we are at a way marker though. Turn around here, you can see a clump of trees. You can see the way marker just off to the left there. Now that joins another public footpath which will take us alongside side 2 of this triangle that we're making. Could be some more earthworks. One thing that definitely is close by though is Church Site Farm. Now of course there's no church anymore, but there is still a farm to see. Indeed, this was the location of a church, and it was here until at least 1810. By 1844 though, it was just a heap of grass-covered ruins upon which every new vicar read himself in at his induction. The last vicar to do this was Reverend R.H.J. Hoskins in 1868. The church outlasted the rest of the village by some margin. Thorpe in the Glebe was abandoned by 1500, and records from 1534 describe the place as a ruin. Legend has it that the village was destroyed in a violent hailstorm, but there are also theories suggesting it was a result of the Battle of Willoughby Field. Nobody really knows. I guess to sum it all up, because Thorpe in the Glebe lay on difficult soil with a small population, it's ultimately that which caused it to fail and become depopulated, leaving only the present-day ruins in its place. At only one point in its history did it have a dominant resident family, that was the Beauchards in the 13th century. For a time, therefore, it was known as Thorpe Beauchard or Beauchardis Thorpe. I reckon these days it should be called Thorpe Annabelle. Okay, so to complete the last side of the triangle, it's just a simple walk down the track that takes you back to Annabelle's farm. It's about a half a mile, and that is Thorpe in the Glebe. Obviously, we've only seen 3 of the 7 farms, 4 if you count Rushcliffe Farm. There are 3 others which are down that kind of way. But I don't think there's really much to tell you about any of those. We've certainly seen the most interesting of the bunch, haven't we, with the 2 at Annabelle's farm. And how lovely that one of the local residents around here is able to help us out by allowing us access to film it. Brilliant, fantastic. I can tell the story. I like telling stories. Time to move on to the next one here in Rushcliffe. There's one other thing I noticed when I came into Annabelle's farm earlier. Thought I'd show you this on the way back too. Look at this for an unusual post box. Georgian, obviously, by the cipher. You don't normally see them that shaped, do you? Very thin as well. Folks, despite the obvious lack of landmarks, parishes like this are always a pleasure to cover. You just never know what farmland will tell you. There are secrets in our countryside, and I love finding them. Wouldn't it be great if every place had a story to tell like that of Thomas Annabelle? I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.